update on what I've been reading. So I've finished 4 books, and one of them was an arc. So I'll tell you about the arc first. It was called The Secret Keeper by Genevieve Graham, and oh my goodness, it was good. I got up this morning, I was at, I don't know, 75, 80%. It's like I couldn't do anything until I finished it. I had to see what happened. So it's about two sisters. They're called Margaret and Dorothy, but they end up with the nicknames of Dash and Dot. Dash is Margaret, who is called that because she's always running around doing things. Dorothy is Dot. I know some people named Dorothy are called Dot anyway, but in her case, it's because she likes Morse code and puzzles and things like that. So they named her that. So anyway, the two sisters become Wrens in World War II, and on very different paths. So one becomes a Morse code operator and then goes into work from there, and one becomes a mechanic, and then things kind of move along from there. So I don't want to give too much of it away. It's just it's too good to give a lot of things away. But it was amazing. I just can't say enough good things about it. The two sisters were pretty much inseparable when they were young, and Gus was one of their neighbor's children, and he came to stay with them for a little while his father was away. So they kind of took him in, and so he's been part of their lives, since they were young. And so it was a lot of, him, kind of interacting with the sisters as well. And the sisters are so great. I mean, they're wonderful characters and so very different. One is definitely outgoing and will try anything, and the other one is very quiet and shy and studious, and so even though they're very involved in each other's lives and very close, they are two very different people. And so things happen when they go off to war and things that make it so that they kind of that kind of stops. They end up not speaking for a while because of something that happens, that's not really anybody's fault, but different things happen in the war that you can't always explain. So there's some of that, and just a lot of action, a lot of interesting things about the war that you may not know. For instance, just kind of, I thought it was interesting because it does take place like the women initially come from a place in Ontario. And so, it is written by a Canadian author. So some of it, there is some Canadian content in it. And one of the things they talked about was an intelligence base that apparently was in Coverdale, New Brunswick, which is very close to where I grew up. So it was, which, I'd never heard tell of such a thing, so I don't know why we didn't learn more of that in school, but we didn't. So yeah, the whole thing was terrific. It's about family and friendship and romance and the war, and really kind of being true to who you are, not trying to be something you're not, but just be the best version of yourself that you can be. And anyway, totally give it 5 stars. It's another one of these ones that I'll be recommending to everybody because it's really so interesting, I find, to hear about women that did things during the war, because for so long it hasn't really been talked about. So I really find it inspiring to hear some of those stories. And I know it's a fictional book, but a lot of those things came from stories of real people. So anyway, really enjoyed that one. So it comes out, I think it's around the first part of April. I can't say the exact date. I don't remember. I think it's around the 7th, maybe. But keep an eye out for it. It's called The Secret Keeper by Genevieve Graham. So the other ones I read Murder at the Scottish Shire, and that one was good as well. It starts out with this woman and her son, and she is kind of struggling. She's trying to run a store, and she's, trying to look after her son. She's having a hard time even getting him to school on time, and she ends up getting in trouble with the headmaster all the time because she's not getting him there promptly. And then the police bring her her grandfather, no, her great grandfather, great grandfather. I think that's right. And maybe it's his. I think it's her son's great grandfather, so that'd be her grandfather. They find him on a park bench. He's sleeping on a park bench, so they bring him to her, and he's having a tough time. And she doesn't really know him or even know that much about him, but you know, cautiously she takes him in and ends up getting him to help in the store, and he becomes really a big part of their life. And so she's got a woman who was supposed to come work for her, and she thinks this woman was really sweet and lovely, and she was looking forward to having some help in the store. And then when she goes to see about it, because the woman didn't show up, it turns out that the woman has been killed, and so it's up to her to try to really find out what happened, because nobody else really seems to care. So she's kind of checking into it all, and still trying to take care of the rest of her life too, and not have it kind of fall apart. So I thought that one was really good. I listened to it on Audible, and sometimes I did have to like, it's not one of those books I could listen to and do other things, at least not at the beginning, because the Scottish accents were sometimes quite thick. And so I'd be listening, and then it's like, what did he say? And I'd have to like stop and back up, and it's like, oh, okay. So I had to pay attention. But with some books you can just you can do your dishes, you can whatever. But this one I had to really pay attention to. So it was good. I would give it 4 out of 5. So the next one I read was Yours Truly, and that's the second in the Part of Your World series. And it was, for any of you who have read Part of Your World, Alexis is the main character in that one, and her best friend is Brianna. So now this one is Brianna's story. And oh my goodness, it was so good. I I cried. I ugly cried with this book. I mean, it was funny. It was heartbreaking. It was very relatable for me. It was everything. So Brianna has a brother, Benny, who needs a kidney transplant, and so he's dealing with dialysis, and this whole thing came on quite suddenly for him, and so he's not taking it very well. And she's a doctor in the hospital, and she's looking, kind of thinking about taking the chief position. She figures that she's a shoe in because she's done the work, and the person who's supposed to be retiring, she figures that she'll be taking his place. And then another doctor comes to the hospital, and her boss basically tells her, like, I'm not going to pick you for the job until we see how he works out. He may want to run against you for it. And anyway, she's ticked. Like, she's been working at this hospital for years, and now this upstart comes in, and she's not happy about it. So when she does meet him, she's quite rude. She's hearing all kinds of things. She's like, nobody's too happy he's there. And uh, when they first meet, it's not good. But then he ends up writing her a letter, and that kind of changes everything between them. And you find out that he has anxiety, and he has it quite bad. And it was, you get a whole, one chapter is written by her, one's written by him, and then it goes back and forth, and you find out, it's a real in-depth look into what the anxiety is like for him. And personally, having anxiety myself, it's like I couldn't help but kind of laugh sometimes, because it's different when you read it on paper, right? Like, he's overthinking things, and he's worrying about things, and he's you know checking out the menu before he goes to a restaurant, and he's just all of these little things. And like I said, it was, to me, it was relatable. So good or bad. And so that was, there was that part to it, and then just the way that they come together, and the way that they get to know each other, and the whole romance between them. It's like, ugh, just, like I said, I went back and forth between, being happy and smiling, and then, ugly crying. So it was a lot, but it was really good, and definitely another 5 out of 5. And I find this author now is quickly becoming an auto-buy author for me. I mean, I know 2 books is, not necessarily everything, but so far I'm really liking the way that she writes, and the characters that she writes, and the fact that the men are um so sweet. Like they're not, they're not bad boys. They're not. They're just really decent, good guys, and I like that sometimes. I like for them to show that too. So anyway, really enjoyed it. So the last one was Murder is a Piece of Cake, and that's the second in the Baker Street mysteries. And so this one, it's got Maddie with her bull mastiff baby, and so they have taken over her Aunt Octavia's bakery. She got it in the first book. She gets it after Aunt Octavia dies, and she takes it over. So now in this one, it's her running the bakery, and then her one of her best friends, April, who's also the police chief, is living in her basement because apparently it's I don't know, hard to find apartments, I guess, just like in real life. And so April has always said that she has an ex-husband. But then when the husband turns up, it turns out he's not her ex-husband, he's her husband. She hasn't divorced him yet. And so he causes a lot of trouble. And of course, let's face it, in any cozy mystery, if the character shows up in the first few pages and he's a real jerk, chances are he's going to be dead. So, so I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that the ex-husband gets what's coming to him, so to speak, and so then the rest of it is trying to show, you know, what really happened and why he ended up murdered. And of course it's trying to prove that, April didn't do it, and that Maddie didn't do it, and all of those sort of things. So it again, I really didn't enjoy the characters. I love the books, and I'll continue to read them. Did I think this one was as good as the first one? No. um Not for me, because I really like the dog. I really like Baby. I like her interactions with Baby. I like everything about the big drooly monster. And I didn't find this one had enough of that. And what it did have was, Baby is, I don't know, it just wasn't enough. So for me, that kind of spoiled a little bit. So I would give it 3.5, rounded up to 4. So still good, but just not quite as good as the first one. So that's what I've been reading. And so I'm, excited with what I've been into. I know not all of them were necessarily on the March Reads list, but some were. Murder at the Scottish Shire was, for sure. Yours truly was. And maybe Murder's a Piece of Cake. So I think I did pretty well this week. So anyway, it all went well, and I'm just got a couple days now before my birthday and before Easter, and just trying to um, kind of wrap my head around all those things. But I'll be back soon with what we're reading for April. All right, talk to you soon, friends. Bye bye.